Welcome back after a well-needed one-week break in which I learned how to speak Cantonese, crochet, and I ate a bunch of fried chicken. Only one of those things is true. To the NRL Punters Weekly Digest, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know leading into this week's NRL matches. And what a couple of weeks it has been. I still have a bit of a post-State of Origin hangover. My Maroons got completely decimated. I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting to lose, but I wasn't expecting to lose by that much. But I guess that result just shows the divide between the two sides. I have a fix for the Maroons. I've got a fix, and I'll be talking about that in a later video this week, so look out for that one. In the meantime, let's get straight in to our round 15 team list / preview / whatever you want to call it edition of the NRL Punters Weekly Digest, starting with Thursday night where the Brisbane Broncos take on the South Sydney Rabbitohs from Suncorp Stadium. Last week, the Broncos faced a Raiders side that had a bit of time away from the game. They had the bye and they had some time to refresh and try some new things, and they were completely put to the paces against the Raiders, and they came up short. They came up really short. They were totally out-enthused by my green machine. They struggled to get up the field. The Carmichael Hunt experiment, well, let's not be too critical of the guy. It's his first grade game back of rugby league in I don't know how many years, 10 plus years. The pace of the game has really sped up since he last played. But look, he wasn't that effective. I don't know what Broncos fans were expecting. He gets another shot this week. The Rabbitohs, they got the win against the Knights, but it was quite an underwhelming performance. I can't imagine Wayne Bennett would have been too impressed with it. I didn't watch the post game, but knowing what Wayne Bennett's like, he wouldn't have been too happy with that 67% completion rate that the Bunnies put forward, which was actually really kind of embarrassing for them. But hey, the good side still get the wins against adversity and when they're not playing their best football, so they got it done there. In terms of team changes for both sides, for the Broncos, Xavier Coates is back this week. He pulled out in the pre-game to that Raiders game with I think it was an ankle injury or something like that. He got injured in the changing rooms, I think. For the Rabbitohs, they get their rested Origin stars back. Damien Cook, Cameron Murray, Jai Arrow, and the three of them. In the head-to-head market for these two sides, not surprisingly, the Broncos are paying $5.75. They're out and out, not favourites. And I can't imagine that they'll be heavily backed. But if you like the Bunnies, $1.13, obviously not really good value there. Maybe chuck that into a multi. My tip for this game is the Rabbitohs by 30. Friday evening, and the first of the Friday games from Queensland Country Bank Stadium up there in sunny North Queensland, more specifically Townsville. The Cowboys take on the Sharks. Cowboys last week were big-time losers against the Seagulls. They were never really in the contest. They went into halftime 28-12 down, and they were on the wrong side of all the stat categories that count. They completed at a disgusting 61%. They made 1,416 run meters compared to 2,041 for the Seagulls. Although they did average 42.9 meters per attacking set, which is pretty good. So they didn't have any issues getting up the field. They obviously just had an issue with holding on to the ball, which impeded their ability to kind of do anything in this one here. They conceded 52 tackle breaks to 20. 52 tackle breaks to 20. If you're Todd Payton, you've got to be asking your players if they even remember how to tackle. That's atrocious. And on the missed tackles front, they missed 52 tackles, coincidentally enough. For the Sharks, they pulled off a win against the Panthers. They handed them their second loss on the trot, albeit without their Origin stars. They did, however, butcher a butcher? Yeah, they did. They butchered an 18-0 halftime lead. So I guess Josh Hannay wouldn't have been too happy with that. But in the end, Sean Johnson iced the victory with a field goal. So they won that one 19-18. In terms of team changes, Justin O'Neill makes way for Kyle Felt, who returns from a back injury. Mitch Dunn returns from suspension by the back row. Cohen Hess starts at prop, and Tom Gilbert drops to the bench. Tom Gilbert is got to be like the most Aussie battler name ever. Tom Gilbert. Is there an ad with a Tom Gilbert in it? I feel like there is. It's like one of those late night Briz 31 ads. It's like, I'm thinking like carpool. I was going to say call, Tom Gilbert, something Tom Gilbert. I don't know. I feel like I've heard that somewhere. For the Sharks, Wade Graham is sidelined indefinitely with his concussion woes. I wonder if he'll be the next senior player in our game to retire from injury, a la Boyd Cordner this week and Jake Friend. Who knows? Siosifa Talakai comes into the starting side for him, with Tig Wilton joining the bench. In the head-to-head market, you'll get $1.70 for the Cowboys. They're slight favourites compared to the Sharks at $2.15. I think maybe some of that might do with the fact that they're at home. Honestly, I look at these sides and I think they're pretty much like for like. My tip is, in fact, the Sharks to get the upset, I guess, in this situation by 8 points. Panthers, Roosters, 7.55 from Blue Bet Stadium. Crackerjack contest here. Penrith, last start losers. They're looking down the barrel of 3 losses on the trot. I personally can't see it happening with their Origin stars being back this week, but you never know. I guess Ivan Cleary would have been happy with the fight that they showed in that second half to come back into the game. Obviously going down to the Sharks. Roosters, last start winners, but nearly not. And that was one of the most intriguing games of football I have seen in I don't know how long, because the Titans nearly pulled off the steal of the century. Down, was it, I think 30-4 at one point. They got themselves all the way back into the game, only to lose it at the death via a Sam Walker field goal. That kid just showed so much composure to get the win for the Roosters. I love watching that guy play week in, week out, watching him blossom as an NRL quality halfback and really blossoming into a superstar of the game. As long as he continues his trajectory, he's going to be up there with the likes of the Nathan Clearys and the DCEs, you know, and the Adam Reynolds of the rugby league world. He's a fantastic talent. And it was really good to see him in the post-game conference with Jared Harawira. Oh, the names! Jared Waria-Hargreaves, just really relishing the moment in the Fox Sports post-game. Team list changes this week. Liam Martin takes spot of injured second rower Viliami Kikau. Matt Burton moves to the centres. And the rest of the Origin stars return, as I mentioned earlier. For the Roosters, bunch of changes for them. Please refer to the team list. In the head-to-head market, $1.27 for the Panthers. Not too surprising there. But what is surprising is $3.70 for the Roosters. I feel as though perhaps last week's result, the fact that they just won by the skin of their teeth after conceding that huge victory, might have something to do with these odds. I think that they're very padded here. I would have had personally the Roosters closer to $2.50, but hey, what do I know? I don't work for the Tap. I don't work for Neds. I don't work for Ladbrokes. What do I know? $3.70, I guess is what I'm trying to tell you, is really, really good odds if you think the Roosters can upset the Panthers. Personally, I think the Panthers are going to win this one by 13 points, and that is me showing respect to the Roosters that I'm not adding a 0 to the end of that. They'd never win by 130 points. But you know what I mean? Panthers, they're just flogging everyone by 1,000,000 points. It's the first Saturday game from McDonald's Nuggie Stadium. Out there in the Hunter, the Knights take on the Warriors. Knights, last start losers against the Rabbitohs. They lost 10-24. They continue to miss their big game talent, all of which is coming back this week, which we'll get to in just a moment. Jake Clifford showed some really positive signs in one of his first games for the Knights. Was it his first game or second game? I don't remember. He had some very enterprising kicking and ball playing. It's good that they've got another half option there down at Newcastle. That could be workable for them in the future. Warriors went down to the Storm 16-42. This was one of those weird games where the stats didn't really tell the tale of the run of play. The Warriors were thoroughly outclassed by the best team of the last, 15 to 20 years. But it didn't show up on the stats sheet. The Storm just did what they do. They take advantage of their opportunities. I mean, you could be matching them. You could be matching them set for set. You could have your completion rates tight. But if you don't capitalize on your opportunities, you know that 100% of the time the Storm will. And if they don't, if they get it wrong, they're going to beat themselves up about it and make sure they get it right 5 times more to make up for it. Harry Grant and Brandon Smith. Can you name a more iconic duo at the moment in the NRL? I don't know. I guess Luau and Cleary would be the obvious one. But these guys are becoming a very exciting 1-2 punch for the Storm. I wonder if Brandon Smith is considering staying at the Storm now. We haven't heard much about where he's going to go to or not go to. If I were Brandon Smith, I know he's already won a comp with the Storm, but I would stick there because it looks as though the balance that they have there is really working for them. When they're both playing from that dummy half position, they're both contributing in their own way, but they're both so effective. Stay at Melbourne, Brandon. Excuse me. This is what happens when you get old. You get things like reflux and you get gas and all that sort of stuff. My diet doesn't really help. Anyway, I'm gonna put this exclamation mark here. Draw a line in the sand on the Harry Grant, Brandon Smith, standing, fanboying, and say that I love these guys. Keep doing what you're doing. In terms of team changes for the Knights, luck comes in threes, and that's what Newcastle had this week with Kalen Ponga, Mitchell Pearce, Heimel Hunt returning from injury, and David Klemmer returning from suspension. But Ben, you say that's 4 pieces of good luck. But Bradman Best is out for 2 months with an injury. So on aggregate, it's 3. That's a very cruel joke to Knights fans. I love Bradman Best. I wish him all the best in his recovery. But hey, it is a tale of threes there. 3 great pieces of news on aggregate. You can't complain with that. The Knights are a different side with those players in the team. In particular, Ponga, Pearce, and Klemmer. So I think the Warriors are really going to be up against it this week. And in terms of team changes for the Warriors, please refer to the team list for the changes. But the notable changes that I will go through right now are Reece Walsh is returning from suspension. He dethrones RTS in the fullback spot with RTS reverting to the wing. And Sean O'Sullivan replaces Chanel Harris-Tavita, who's I think out for another extended period with injury. That poor bloke. I love watching that guy play. I think he's another one of these young halves of the future. But unfortunately, he's just had a really bad run of luck with the injuries. In the head-to-head market, you'll get $1.55 for the Knights, $2.40 for the Warriors. My tip is the Knights by 1 point. I think this is going to be a highly competitive game, but I'm backing the Knights to bounce back into some form, given that they've got that star talent back that they've really been missing. 5:30 p.m. from Wynn Stadium, you've got the St. George Illawarra Dragons versus the pride of the ACT, the Canberra Raiders. Dragons last start losers against the Bulldogs, who notched up their second win of the season. They lost 6-28. What do you say about this performance other than they were really never in the contest? They completed at a measly 68%. They struggled to get up the field. They missed over twice the amount of tackles that Canterbury did. All of that is a recipe for disaster. For a loss 100% of the time. I don't know what's going on with the Dragons. If you read the papers, you hear murmurs that, the players that have been told that they're not wanted next season, i.e. Matt Duffy and Corey Norman, aren't as motivated to put in anymore. Look, I don't pay any credence to that. These are professional athletes. They've got a job to do. And at the end of the day, every game that they're playing for the Dragons this season is a dress rehearsal for a possible opportunity somewhere else. So I don't know about that. Raiders return to form. 38-16 against the Broncos. It was the game that we needed. It was a team that we needed to play. You could argue at the moment, Brisbane easy beats. I don't want to put it down to that. I want to say that the Raiders made some astute changes. They went away. They kind of got a little bit mentally refreshed. They walked away from the George Williams saga and the Curtis Scott thing. I don't even want to get into it. Are they back? It's too early to tell. But what I will say is this. If the Raiders are potentially looking for a full-time long-term fullback solution to Chance Nickel-Klooster, who has a neck injury, when I hear about his neck injury, I get the feeling that maybe it's a lot worse than we know, and that there's a potential that maybe we know he's scratched for the season, but maybe it's more long term than that. Maybe it's more of a precarious kind of thing because it's to do with the neck area. So you've got to think that they might be taking extra precautions with respect to that. So maybe they're thinking to the future. It's not that they don't want Chance to be their fullback long term, but they have to look to the future. And Bailey Simonson was outstanding at fullback. Ran for 200 plus meters. He set up tries. He looked at times like, because he hasn't played fullback for a little while, he looked like, there's some things in his, in his defensive positioning and so forth that he's going to have to clean up in his game, and in terms of knowing when to catch a ball that's, bouncing close to the sideline potentially, and when to let the ball go. His decision making needs to improve, but he definitely looks like someone who could be very effective for the Raiders from the back, not just defensively, but obviously in attack, he offers so much, and now he's got more room to roam. He's faster than CNK, so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how he goes this week. He is playing at fullback. And in terms of other team changes for the Green Machine, let me just pull this up here. No changes at all. No changes this week. So Ricky's put his faith in the 17 that got it done last week against the Broncos. Dragons also no changes, although Zach Lomax has been named on the extended reserves bench. So there's murmurs that he may get the call up, which would be a huge boost for the Dragons. He's arguably their best player, and he's been missing for too long. In the head-to-head market, you'll get $2 for the Dragons and $1.80 for the Raiders. Look, I'm going to be okay with these odds because the Raiders haven't shown enough yet. It was just one win that, that they're moving back towards being the Canberra Raiders of old. So maybe the fact that those odds are close together, we kind of let that go. I honestly think that there's a lot of money in the 13-plus market for the Raiders. They're throwing value around if you think the Raiders are going to flog, and I think they will. I think they'll win by 20 points. Storm Tigers from Sunshine Coast Stadium, the new home of the Melbourne Storm, away from home. 7:35 p.m. Storm, last start winners, 42-16. What are you going to say about that I haven't already said? They're just a Storm. I did the love fest about Harry Grant and Brandon Smith, so I'm not gonna talk anymore about the Storm because, I get the warm and fuzzies when I talk about these great players. Tigers last start losers against the Eels, 12-40. They got their asses handed to them, is what happened. The Eels were in a mood, and Tigers paid the price to the tune of 40-12. 46 missed tackles and a 71% completion rate. Not the worst completion rate in the world, but it's close to the 60s, so it's not great. In terms of team changes for the Storm, Christian Welch and Nelson Asofa Solomona return to the front row. Big boost for them. Not that they really need it to beat the Tigers. With all due respect to the West Tigers, It is the Storm. Be a realist, okay? Don't be oh, you shouldn't say that, you don't know. I do know. With or without these players, they're beating you, okay? Sorry you're a Tigers fan. Whatever. Don't take it personally. My team's not doing great either. Dean Eremaya makes way for George Jennings, who returns from injury, and Jesse Bromwich is out with an elbow injury. For the Tigers, Ken Mamalo makes his Tigers debut the week after he scored a hat-trick in his last game for the Warriors, which was very emotional for him post-game. All the boo-hoo, all that sort of stuff. Nah. Ken Mamalo, great player. Evidently a great club man, so good. Congratulations to him on, his great career with the Warriors. Hopefully this is a bit of a resurgence for him. It maybe, livens him up a little bit, what's that expression? Something is as good as a holiday. Change is as good as a holiday. Yeah, that for him. For the other team changes, please refer to the team list because it's too convoluted for me to talk about right now. Whatever. It's not. I just refer to the team list, man. I take the time to make these things up. Just read. Head-to-head market, $1.04 for the Stormers and $10 for the Tigers, which, fair. I'm tipping the Storm by 26. First Sunday game is from Bankwest Stadium, where the Eels take on an informed Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs side. Eels last week, superb, 40-12 against the Tigers. 10 of Parramatta's 17 ran for 100-plus running meters. Wow. They did the business. Gutho did everything he possibly could to make Blues coach Brad Fittler remember who he is. Remember me, coach. Remember me. I'm the king of Bankwest Stadium. 2 tries, 3 line breaks, 7 tackle breaks, and 150 run meters. For the Doggies, it's great to see them have a bit of success, albeit against the Dragons. They won 28-6. Jake Averillo scored 2 tries, and Trent Barrett seems to be a fan of him. He might be making that halfback spot his own. Kyle Flanagan's on the outer. I know that they've got Matt Burton coming next year. Who knows? Well, we might see a Matt Burton, Jake Averillo halves combination at the Dogs. Anything is possible. Good on the young fella for putting in and really taking the opportunity he's been given with like a bull of the horn. I'm really bad on the expressions today. Like bull by the horns. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, let's move on. Team changes. Sean Russell replaces suspended Micah Sevo for the Eels. Never heard of that guy before. I'm going to assume if he plays for Parramatta, he's a quality player. Brad Arthur doesn't put scrubs in his 17. Keegan Hipgrave takes Bryce Cartwright's spot in the 17. I don't know why Bryce Cartwright has been dropped. That is a very interesting one. I'll have to do a bit of digging there. I hope it's not like a... Admittedly, I didn't watch all of that game last week, but I don't know if it's a form thing or a disciplinary thing off field. Who knows? I'll investigate a little bit. For the Dogs, no changes to the team that did the business against the Dragons. In the head-to-head market, you'll get $1.08 for the Blue and Golds and $7.50 for the Dogs of War. My tip is the Eels by 14. Last game of the round, Titans Seagulls from Cbus Super Stadium. Titans last start losers against the Roosters. We've already gone through this one. They lost by a point. They nearly pulled off the best comeback in NRL history. And if there's anything they can take out of that game is if they can take that second half into the first half of this next game and try and replicate that form, then they might be into a winning formula there. That's what they need to be looking at. The Titans are a better side than they are performing currently. They started off the season well. They've kind of, fallen off the wagon a little bit. I think they need more from some of their big players. David Fifita, for a guy who has all the ability in the world, all the natural, I don't want to say God-given talent because I'm not a religious person. I'm going to say universe-given talent. Often he just switches off. He just tunes out of games, and you just wonder where's that attacking rate from David Fifita that we know he's capable of consistently over an 80-minute period. Where is it? It's not there sometimes, and they let themselves down. Tino can't carry that forward pack on the back of his shoulders alone. He needs some support. He's got Mo Fotuaika there, a bit of a silent achiever there. He gets the good run meters and he does the good work, but he needs a little bit more support than just Mo and a few of the other guys there. Seagulls, last start winners, obviously. They keep motoring towards that top 4 spot. They look like if they can keep this team fit, then they could potentially go all the way. That's how good they are. Team changes for the Titans. Sam Stone starts in the second row in place of suspended captain Kevin Proctor, and Jai Whitbread joins the bench. For the Silvertails, Tommy Turbo returns to fullback after a well-earned break following this State of Origin Game 1 decimation of the Queensland Blues. Queensland Maroons. Queensland Maroons. And Ruben Garrick returns to the wing where he belongs. You're back to your wing. Man, what am I doing? It's just... Moses Suley joins the reserves. Sean Kepi returns from suspension via the bench, pushing Kurt DeLewis back to the reserves. In the head-to-head market, you'll get $3 for the Titans and $1.38 for the Seagulls. Look, I personally would have pushed the Titans out a little bit further. They're like $3.50 to $4 for me. Anyway, again, what would I know? My tip in this game is the Seagulls by 10 points. And that has been this episode of the NRL Punters Weekly Digest team list / preview / whatever you want to call it edition for round 15 of this NRL Telstra Premiership. If you have not subscribed to this channel yet, I would please ask that you do so and turn on your notifications so you can stay in the loop of all me content. And if you like this video, give me a like, Just give me a like, give me a thumbs up, tell your friends, whatever. I'll see you in the next video.